Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some massive news for the Auburn Tiger fans coming out of the transfer portal as former Penn State wide receiver KeAndre Lambert-Smith committing to Auburn heading into the 2024 season. The Auburn fans, you guys know how I feel about KeAndre Lambert-Smith. I think he was by far the best wide receiver available in the transfer portal. But more importantly, I've been very vocal that I think this is probably the best landing spot for KeAndre Lambert-Smith as well. You look at what Auburn potentially was looking for at the wide receiver position in this transfer portal window. One, I think experience is massive. This is a guy that's going into his fifth year of college football, has been extremely productive at the Power 5 level, but more importantly, the kind of receiver that KeAndre Lambert-Smith is, I think fits kind of just like a glove in terms of fitting into this Auburn wide receiver room where you have some real difference makers, right? A guy like Cam Coleman, you have Perry Thompson coming in. Those are the receivers that really are going to work down the field vertically extremely well. Cam Coleman being a wide receiver that really can do everything. But what you were probably looking for if you're Hugh Freeze in this Auburn offense is, hey, do we have a wide receiver that can kind of be the quote-unquote quarterback's best friend, the wide receiver that is separating early and often, running clean routes? That's what KeAndre Lambert-Smith brings to this Auburn offense. He's not necessarily the biggest or the fastest. He is no Cam Coleman. You see that on the screen. But what KeAndre Lambert-Smith is elite at doing is separating. It's not always sexy to talk about, but it's a massive part about being a wide receiver. I think not only KeAndre Lambert-Smith is a phenomenal wide receiver. As a Michigan fan, I've seen plenty of them. But more importantly, Auburn, I think this is a massive fit in their wide receiver room. Want to get into KeAndre Lambert-Smith, talk a little bit about what he brings to the table, but I also want to have the conversation of what is this Auburn wide receiver room looking like heading into 2024. Before we get into it, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, the Auburn Tiger fans. It's been a blast talking the transfer portal. The amount of support y'all have continued to show to the fellas truly does mean a lot. I've had a blast breaking down these commitments. Cannot thank you guys enough for rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start with what KeAndre Lambert-Smith brings to the table. We talked about separation. Now, I think there will be a lot of casual college football fans that look at his stats from the last couple of years at Penn State and say, well, he's solid. I don't know if he's a difference maker. I think there's a reason that 24/7 Sports On 3 have him as one of the best wide receivers that has entered the transfer portal going back to the winter months. And that is because you turn on this Penn State offense and say that I don't know if any wide receiver would be catching 1,000 yards in that Penn State offense. KeAndre Lambert-Smith is one of those wide receivers that you stick him on a lot of different offenses in the country. He's a wide receiver one. He's a 1,000-yard receiver. And quite frankly, he's probably going to the NFL draft. But because he was on that Penn State offense, he just didn't get the opportunity to really produce like I always knew and thought he could. And now he comes into this Auburn offense. And I'm not necessarily going out and saying he'll be an 1,000-yard receiver for Auburn because it is, suddenly just a loaded wide receiver room. But what I want to focus on is that KeAndre Lambert-Smith has the potential, the capability to kind of come in and be that wide receiver one caliber player for this Auburn offense. And we've talked about this a couple of times as we talked Auburn in the transfer portal. One of the things that really stands out to me is that Hugh Freeze is doing a phenomenal job being, extremely particular and disciplined in the transfer portal. And what I mean by that is he's not going out there and just grabbing all of these random players, bringing them in like we see other programs do. He's going and saying, wait, what do we need as a program heading into 2024? I think we identified another wide receiver, a couple guys on the interior defensive line. That's exactly what he's done, right? Phillip Bleedy, Isaiah Rakes, and then he gets a wide receiver that I think perfectly fits what this Auburn program wanted in the wide receiver room. It is a relatively young wide receiver room for the Auburn Tigers, right? You have arguably your leading receiver is going to be a true freshman. Heck, your second receiver might be a true freshman as well, whether it's Bryce Kane, whether it's Perry Thompson. Injecting a guy like KeAndre Lambert-Smith gives not only some veteran leadership to that wide receiver room, but also a guy that I think from a personnel standpoint really fits what Auburn needs. We went from 2023 having your leading receiver be a tight end in Rivaldo Fairweather. Not a shot at Rivaldo Fairweather, just kind of a comment in terms of what this Auburn wide receiver room was, into Cam Coleman, one of the most talented players really in all of college football as a true freshman. You're bringing a guy like Lewis, a proven contributor at the group of 5 level. You have multiple other wide receivers coming in as true freshmen, Perry Thompson and company. You have some other guys like Burton, who Camden Brown, you feel good about. And then you're bringing a guy like KeAndre Lambert-Smith, who's a proven producer at the Power 5 level. And again, a guy that I think is an NFL wide receiver that's still in college because he kind of got unlucky with the offense that he was placed. And I think this is a massive get for the Auburn Tigers. I am really excited about this Auburn offense. And I get that a lot of Auburn fans have their question marks about a guy like Peyton Thorne. My question to you guys would be, what does this Auburn offense look like with the weapons that it's going to have in 2024? Peyton Thorne, when he had weapons at Michigan State, was a phenomenal football player. Won 11 games for Michigan State. Beat my Michigan Wolverines the year they went to the college football playoffs. Peyton Thorne can be a very good quarterback that can win you football games. You got to have the weapons around him. They didn't have it in place in 2023. I think in 2024, you have those weapons. And I think for Auburn fans, that's what has to fire you up the most. A perfect fit, damn good football player. Auburn, y'all got a good one. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.